Sabah, Malaysia, city volunteers distribute aid supplies to flood-affected residents. Tzu Chi Senior High School affiliated with TCU signed a memorandum with Maine Central Institute. Welcome to DaAi Headlines. I'm Siri Su. Thank you for joining us. In Malaysia, Sabah, heavy rain has led to severe flooding. The flood has affected more than 4,000 people. Many local residents are facing water and food shortage. Upon learning of the situation, city volunteers went there to assess the damages. They've also brought aid supplies for the flood-affected residents. Let's take a look.
After the heavy rain, River Pedas is still dangerous, as 47 villages were impacted by the severe flooding in Sabah's Tenem district. According to local engineers, they said that on the night of flooding, the water exceeded ground levels, so it was very high, up to 20 feet high, higher than this factory here. This river started the flood. As Tzu Chi volunteers arrived to evaluate the damages, they saw some houses completely covered by water.
The residents here suffer a lot because they might be out of food. This low-lying area is hard even for helicopters to reach. It doesn't have any open spaces. Along this road is all water, so you must rely on a boat to carry residents out. Look, the water levels are about this high.
I cannot save everything item. Therefore, my television, refrigerator, and other items are damaged. During the flood, I only took out my ID and my child's birth certificate. I didn't even bring out my clothes.
The sudden flood, along with water shortage, has deeply impacted flood-affected residents. Upon hearing the news, volunteers arrived to provide drinking water and supplies to locals.
We'll distribute 1,200 boxes of drinking water and 12,000 masks.
Due to the water shortages in multiple areas, after receiving the supplies from Tzu Chi volunteers, flood-affected residents are feeling more at ease.
In Taiwan during the pandemic period, police officers work very hard. As the weather gets hotter, they also have to endure the heat. City Police Association in the Central District donated face shields and oversleeves to the police force. They hope the police officers walk on duty safely while staying cool in the hot weather. The police officers have expressed their gratitude for city volunteers' donations.
As police officers have to go on duty in hot temperatures during the pandemic, more officers work frequent shifts as Tzu Chi Police Association brought heartwarming gifts. The gifts include face shields and oversleeves.
We send supplies to Dajia Tongxiao Precinct and also to the Mobile Division. Moving on, we'll provide more COVID prevention supplies in accordance with each unit's needs.
Gifts filled with sincerity from Kaohsiung Tzu Chi volunteers. The supplies distributed include 1,900 face shields and 5,000 oversleeves.
Police officers work under the high heat, so I wanted to protect them.
I hope that they're safe during the pandemic.
Thank you, brothers and sisters from the City Police Association, bringing us these supplies and care before June 15th, which is the Police Day.
Apples symbolizing safety are also given to police officers, as the sincerity from volunteers made police officers feel the warmth of society before Police Day.
At the start of the pandemic, some borough chiefs complained about being excluded outside the COVID prevention workforce. At the earliest time, they did not receive the list of COVID confirmed patients, which amounts to community complaints. Actually, a borough chief works very hard at the front line. She made sure that confirmed cases may remain anonymous while providing supplies to families in quarantine. Let's take a look.
The Dim Sum disinfectant is for us to disinfect and eliminate bacteria. The effectiveness lasts for around 8 hours. The pandemic has caused many to panic as the bureau chief tried to come up with plans before the arrival of the Department of Environmental Protection.
I contacted the Department of Environmental Protection, but they already called to help other regions which are hotspots of COVID-19.
During disinfection, every corner has to be covered as vendors said that the outbreak of COVID came too quickly. The company dealing with disinfection experienced an overload of work requests. Yes, we disinfect the streets 5 times or more during a week.
而且你看，漂白水也来了。
Taking out the care package designed for the bureau chief, not long ago, protective clothing and ethanol were short in stock, representing the helplessness of the current situation.
去人家确诊家什么东西都没有。
When we visited COVID confirmed cases, we had nothing, so they gave us protective clothing, which I received recently.
Not long ago, Taiwan was the role model in COVID prevention. Yet what happened during this past year?
There was a borough chief who protested, and one day we had to enter the confirmed case house. Only police officers and firefighters had proper gear. We only had a mask.
Zhang Ruifang said that if there are any confirmed cases in the community, patients with light symptoms can stay at home, quarantine at a different floor space. For 10 days, the entire family can only eat canned food and instant noodles provided by the Department of Health.
那我跟卫生局通报，卫生局说
I told the Department of Health and they responded. They told me to give instant food like instant noodles, dry noodles, or canned food to home of confirmed cases.
Without a food delivery system and a proper signal at home, it's hard to believe how this patient made it through these couple days. Every 2 to 3 days, Zhang Ruifang calls in to make sure everything is fine. Yet one of the people lost contact in the morning.
没通。
It's not going through. Yes, Mr. Wang, how are you feeling these days? I sent messages to you, but you didn't reply, so I thought of calling you. It's me, the borough chief.
On the other end of the call is Mr. Wang, who was confirmed to have COVID-19. In the past 10 days, he was quarantined at the 3rd floor, living without air conditioning and baths. Though he said that in the beginning of the pandemic, he was already stocked up on supplies. I prepared food very early, from the day when there were 180 confirmed cases. Mr. Wang humorously said he treats quarantine as a vacation, and as the days go by, he started to understand how to go with the flow. I treat it as a cold, that's it, but to my wife, she was very scared, but it turned out to be nothing. Zhang Ruifang said that during the newest wave of pandemic, they did not receive notifications. At the start, no one knew who was a confirmed case, as their office phone is constantly receiving calls from community residents.
This wave, we didn't know who was a confirmed case. We really didn't know. After we asked the district office, we had an answer, because our village chief is part of a different branch.
In order to let families out of the instant food life, Zhang Ruifang asked for lunchbox providers for delivery, yet no one was able to do so, as she is the one to purchase fresh fruits and vegetables for the family. Though labor is lacking at the front line to prevent COVID-19, bureau chiefs are trying their best in hopes of helping community residents through tough times.
As the pandemic brought several changes to people's lives, education remained the same. Tzu Chi Senior High School, affiliated with Tzu Chi University, signed a memorandum with Maine Central Institute. They hope that students from Taiwan may go from online courses to U.S. physical classrooms. And after receiving both Taiwan and U.S. high school diplomas, students may consider applying for universities in the United States. Let's join in there.
Sincerely invite all of you to visit Tzu Chi University and the Tzu Chi High School.
TCU President Ingrid Liu welcomes everyone to further understand Tzu Chi's educational system, as the entire signing process is done via online conferencing. The conference includes AIT representative, Maine Central Institute's principal, a principal from TC Senior High School affiliate with TCU, and the principal from Tainan TC Senior High School.
他可以拿到这2所
They can receive diplomas from both schools, no matter it's within the country or foreign universities. This is a boost to the students' future plans for enrollment.
进入，我觉得它是个加速器。
Maine Central Institute has over 150 years of history. TCU students who entered during 2021 may study in basic courses. All the courses are taught in English, and during summer, students may participate in the physical classrooms, receiving a diploma after completion. We are one of the oldest schools in Boston. We provide over 100 credits for students studying in the fields of science and medical education. As the pandemic limited students' ability to move, with a dedicated heart, one may still expand their horizons.
Jing Tzu aphorisms are words of wisdom spoken by Dharma Master Zheng Yan. It has been published in books and more than 8 million copies have circulated. Jing Tzu aphorisms have been translated into 23 languages. These words of wisdom have guided people onto correct life path and purified people's minds. However, do you know the origin of Jing Tzu aphorisms? How did some teachers promote Jing Tzu aphorisms in schools? Let's find out in our report. More than 20 years ago, Chen Jiaqing stood at the conductor's position.
He created the drum team so we can be united. The drum team's extraordinary sound represents the spirit of teacher Yo.
The drum team was created by teacher You Zhenqing. Although he has passed away, the Jing Tzu aphorisms he promoted continue to influence students in the school.
This is the first Jing Tzu aphorism I learned. Good words are like lotus flowers blooming on lip. We boys usually talk without thinking much. My teacher wrote the sentence in the crosstalk script. I was asked to act it out.
You Zhenqing was the first person to incorporate the master's words of wisdom into curriculum.
In 1989, I read Tzu Chi monthly magazines, and I copied the words spoken by the master.
Students wrote down their thoughts about the Jing Tzu aphorisms. Teacher Yo has asked people to draw comics and taught the children to edit the Jing Tzu aphorisms so it could be published as a book.
I was very naughty back in 4th grade. After I turned into a 5th grader, I was instructed by the teacher, and the master's Jing Tzu aphorisms enlightened me. Since then, I did not do bad things or make the teacher angry. After my teacher taught me, I would think before I talked. Sometimes when I talked, my mindless words might be misinterpreted by others, so I would think before I talked.
In 1992, Tzu Chi's Teachers Association was established. These volunteers brought Jing Tzu aphorisms to different schools. The influence of Jing Tzu aphorisms is like ripples that quietly spread.
An uncle saw me and asked me to go over there. He said that one should argue a point to death. Your mother has misprinted these words. How can she make a child wear this clothes?
The conversation with this stranger has left a deep impression in Zheng Kaiwen's mind. He has realized the value of Jing Tzu aphorisms.
It is in fact an expectation that starts small, so Jing Tzu aphorisms can enlighten us.
把这样的短短的小语放在心里，待人接物啊，那样的调和，简单的话，真正的能转变人生的观念，转杂为静。
I've heard many words of wisdom from the master. I think if I did not share these words with the world, it would be a loss.
He Guoqing, whose marketing expertise has a goal. He wants to promote master's words of wisdom to the world. In 1989, a good opportunity arose.
In 1989, the master asked me to be the convener of Tzu Chi Nursing School's school opening ceremony. I invited Gao Xinjiang to help out. We published 20,000 copies of Jing Tzu aphorisms. I said that I think this book can sell 500,000 to 1 million copies. When they heard this, they laughed. If the publisher can sell 20,000 copies, it is considered popular. One cannot imagine selling 500,000 copies. In the end, I was right. After the book was published, it was Taiwan's bestseller for several years.
After being published for 32 years, Jing Tzu aphorisms were translated into 23 languages and published into 8 million books. The master has turned the book royalties into red envelopes of blessing and wisdom. Lai Ruixiong has suffered physical disabilities because he lacked oxygen when he was born, which led to cerebral palsy. However, this does not affect his thinking abilities.
Include me when doing good deeds.
More than 10 years ago, Tzu Chi promoted Jing Tzu aphorisms on the streets. Back then, Lai Ruixiong and his father encountered Tzu Chi volunteers. While the old father was full of worries, Jing Tzu aphorisms helped the father's son pair change their mindset.
We showed them a Jingsi aphorisms. Then he said, yes, include me when doing good deeds.
阿弥陀佛。双手合十。开始动。
Lai Ruisheng and his father started to do recycling and discovered that they have the abilities to do good deeds. The willingness to give has saved the father-son pair.
Since he wants to carry out Tzu Chi's work, I am very joyful. I hope during our lifetime, we can contribute to society.
2 years ago, Lai Yongzhen passed away due to illness. Before his passing, he has asked city volunteers to care for his son.
He told me that he worried for his 2 sons, as he did not know what to do with them. I said that Ruisheng is our Tzu Chi baby. I love you, right? I love you too.
真的是有这种的缘分。我爱你呀，我嘛爱你啦。
Providing strength when people are feeling weak and giving direction in life, Jingsi aphorisms are words of wisdom that can be lived out in life.
其实这还可以往前飞，被它挡住。
Greed leads to loss, while contentment brings peace of mind and happiness. In our next report, we'll look at the story of a goose with golden feathers. As a mother and her daughters live in poverty, the goose has allowed them to pluck its golden feathers to make money. However, the mother and daughters became too greedy. We take a look at what they did to the goose.
Once upon a time, there was a very poor family. The father had passed away, and the mother had to raise 3 daughters, all by herself. Life was too difficult. The mother had no choice but to take her daughters to work as servants for a wealthy family. They worked very hard, just so they could get by every day. On a tree in front of their house, a goose with fluffy, shiny golden feathers saw how the family struggled to make ends meet. So one day, as the mother and the girls were going out to work, the goose went up to them and started to talk. He said to the girls, "I was your father in my past life. I saw how difficult life was for you and your mother. So I have an idea. As my feathers are golden and unique, you can each pluck some of my feathers and sell them for money. I'll come back regularly to make sure you have a steady supply of my feathers." The mother went first and plucked some of the goose's feathers. The girls also each plucked 5 feathers from the goose. They tied the feathers into a bundle. And then the mother went to the market to sell it. With the money they made, they were able to have a decent meal that day. As promised, the goose would come once every few days. and the mother and the girls would gather a bundle of golden feathers for sale. The regular income finally allowed them to live a stable life. However, one day, the mother said to her daughters, "Even people are not reliable, let alone a goose. Although it comes to us once every couple of days, generously offering us its feathers and giving us a good life, who knows when the goose will stop coming altogether? So what do you say? When it comes back next time, we pluck all its feathers so we can save up more money." The girls all agreed. The goose came back again. The mother nodded to the girls, and they started plucking off all its feathers. The poor goose had nothing left on it. It was so weak that it could neither fly nor walk. So they brought it to a cage and kept it there. They fed it every day, waiting for its golden feathers to grow back. After a while, the goose's feathers did grow back. However, they are not golden anymore, but just normal white feathers. Greed leads to loss, while contentment brings peace of mind and happiness.
As the pandemic becomes severe in Taiwan, medical workers have been working hard. To encourage them, teachers and students at an elementary school in Kaohsiung have written letters to medical workers. We'll leave you with these images. Thank you for joining us. Goodbye.